Just like to welcome everybody back. Thank you back for coming back. I just had a little bit of roast beef, some taro, so it was really good stuff there too. So happening, but just we're getting some good comments on the comment section. Just let everybody know where you're from. Just to introduce yourselves there too. But trying to build a community here of just people that are interested in revitalization. It's the third annual for the Dakota for the Wapahaska hosting this event there too. So continue to grow, and it's really interesting with this virtual learning too. So I'd like to thank some of our people and our sponsors for helping us to make this a reality this year there too. So hopefully by next year, things looking good, that we'll be able to get back to normal there too. But this time I'd like to welcome back our welcome on our new speaker for this hour. We had two really great speakers this morning, really good information. But our speaker, Dakota, he's from Dallas. Nelson was born on the Pine Ridge Reservation. Dallas grew up on 3 Maugason Park in Pine Ridge, South Dakota, and is living in the Red Cloud community in Slim Butte, South Dakota. Dallas holds a Bachelor of Science in Scientology, a Bachelor of Science in American Indian Studies, and a Master of Arts in Lakota Leadership and Management. He's also got a couple of other guests that he has with him. I'll read their names there too and just acknowledge them. And he has Vern White. He's the Director of Curriculum Development, and Shantwa Jones, Lakota School Design Coordinator. So they'll be with us for little presentations coming up. So we'll bring them in and bring in our new guest speaker.
I'm not able to share my screen. It's allowing me to share my screen.
Okay. How's it going now with your screen? Pretty good. Maybe it's on your end. We're good on our side.
Got it now.
Oh, Ashtedo. Okay. Wabadake, yeah. Okay, I can see it. It's all good. So Nina Cho. So jump on in, and we'll come back to you with some questions. And thank you for dropping by today. Paramedo.
Ashtelo Plamelo. Ihuha Ampetu Ashte Chichapelo. Dallas Nelson and Machapi. Wazia Haha Alwati Naula Lakota Hemacha. I want to thank each of you for being here today. I want to thank the organizers for inviting us to share our story, our work, and our effort to reclaim and revitalize our Lakota language here on the Pine Ridge Reservation. But before I go any further, I wanted to welcome my colleagues, my grandma, Unchi Vereen. She's been working with the Lakota language for over 40 years here on the Pine Ridge Reservation. She's the director of our curriculum development. And then I'm also here with my relative, Shantwa Jones, who's from here, from Thunder Valley, South Dakota. And she's the coordinator of our school design effort. But before we go any further, as a protocol, we wanted to start our presentation with a prayer. So, wo check ya wan kakapi. So, unchi Vereen, wo check ya wan kakinkalo.
Ampetu washte. Wakanta gashila. Le ampetu ki otokea ji wo check ya wan shion kakakte. Na le wakion opra etanha eprinkte. Le wo check yaki. Chawa. Wakanta gashila. Ampetu washte unyaku pikile lila wopila tranka echiche. Nakun led doshkel unyampi na wakansha ki echa lel washi unyuhapi na dokel unkihi piki he echa le Lakota Iaki, Echa Lila Wankal Unyusapi, Cha Heun Wakan Shaki Lila Unspeunki Chaki He Washtekte. Nakun Le Wochekie Ki Wakari Le Echa Lakota Iapi Ki Echa Wakantanka Nitrawa. Cha Nakun Makha Akan Umpi Kile Nakun Nitrawa. Now, daku ke ash ohomni danyan daku ko unyu happy uhena et chana kunitrawa. Chawa kantanka tunkashila lena et cha unkableza unkayapi na he kyapi ni. Nakuma kantanka tunkashila togata kya el kampi el kubik down hena et chana ku awachianki na dokel okihika owi chayakia he na kun trehan ni umpi cha helms el na kun wakanja laki inshian umpiktel na kun trechaki na kun wiyan na wichashaki na echa na kun le opta wicho kile oichaki na dokel oyaki hiki he Lakota Iaki le echa tokata kia mani big del helps el kiapi na helps el o unyam big del nia cha wankatu ya chi yusapi na ochekia ogna chimpi cha nakun he cha lila danya yudenkel Ungeapik del helms el ongeapi ni chalila wankatu yachi nakina takuku unspe unkichapi kilena echa ni echa echa unspe unkichapi kita helms el ongeapi ni mitakuya oyasin.
Okay. Again, thank you all for being here. I want to also acknowledge all of my relatives inside this virtual conference, especially those that are older than me. I want to excuse myself for speaking in front of you, and in no way, shape, or form mean any disrespect in any of the information we're going to share with you. With that, as with any grassroots effort, there's always a story behind how it began and where it started. And we felt it fitting to share the story behind how all the work we're able to do today, where it started, our origin story for our organization. So this is the vision we have today for our entire organization. We envision a liberated Lakota nation through our language, lifeways, and spirituality. This vision helps guide us in all the work that we do and everything that we've are working towards today. So the pathway to liberation, the pathway to creating better systemic change for our children and such. This is sort of the foundation of what we are, the place where we want to be working towards continuously. So. And I'm gonna turn it over to my relative Shante. She's gonna walk us through on how Thunder Valley Community Development Corporation began, where it began, and why it exists today.
Yeah. Okay. And Pentuwashi, everybody. My name is Shante Jones. Here is the story of how Thunder Valley came to be. So it is a grassroots community organization based in the heart of the Pine Ridge Reservation, Osheti Shakoni land, and in the home of the Oglala. Our beginnings are rooted in Lakota prayer and ceremony, and we're striving for a liberated Lakota nation through our language, lifeways, and spirituality. The beginnings of this place started over 35 years ago with my unchi, my grandmother Tesla Bo, in a little HUD housing complex in Evergreen, South Dakota. She was so selfless and never hesitated to help everyone. She instilled in all of her children and grandchildren to always help others, regardless of their own situation. She always provided a safe place for so many different young people to stay in her home, and community members always asked her if she could take in more kids and bring in more families, and she never hesitated. She always brought everybody in. And so one day, a few of my uncles and their friends were talking about, or I guess you could say complaining about the things that they wish they had. They always wanted to change the current situations of our people, and they were sitting around saying, I wish we had this, I wish we had that. Why don't we build this? Why don't we have that? We're struggling. We're continuously always having these obstacles to face as people. And they felt that these obstacles were always prevailed in their thought process. And so later on that evening, they went into an inipi, or a sweat lodge. And the challenge was given to them by our grandfathers. Are you not warriors? When are you going to start doing things for yourselves and for your own children? When are you going to stop depending on the white man to do things for your family? And those questions sparked action. They finally got together, and it motivated them to never accept things that are wrong within our community, but to acknowledge and honor the fact that they have the power, or we have the power, to make that change within our community. And that is evident here at Thunder Valley. My Unchi's vision and dream created this physical place and movement within our youth, elders, and community. And I was just a little girl, and I was able to sit there and watch this community develop and flourish, and to be able to leave our reservation and get an education and then come back here to work here with my relatives, and to be able to design the school for our babies, our children. And here at Thunder Valley, we recognize that all of these things are possible. So we're attempting to clear this path for our children and for our grandchildren. And this place was based on a better place for our children. It was created for them, and with them always being at the foundation and the forefront of our planning, our goals, our visioning, our mission. And the core and the spirit of this place has always been family, and it was built for the children. And I'm so honored and grateful to be able to watch this and to watch it grow. And now my own baby gets to be over here in the Montessori site in 100% Lakota immersion setting with all of her tuis, all of her aunties that love and care for her. And it's so powerful to see that happening here, and to be full of courage like our ancestors, because we're brave and we're courageous people. And we're recognizing here at Thunder Valley that to have liberation, we have to individually and collectively shift our mindsets and our worldview to once again think and live Lakota. And so here you see in this picture of the community center, actually the big window in the middle behind the light post is exactly where we're sitting right now for this talk and this conference. And that's the community center. And so we are, like I said, a grassroots Lakota-led nonprofit in the heart of the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. And we have 8 powerful initiatives that I'm gonna pass over to Dallas to share more about.
There's a lot. Cool. So that's a brief history of how we started, how this place began. Now, fast forward to current day, there's over 8 different initiatives that work in concert to create systemic change on a reservation. All different initiatives are located on our regenerative community development community. This place, like Shante mentioned, is right now in the first phase, but it's developing to create a safe environment for our children, for our families, and for all of our community members. Right now, it consists of around 21 homes, single family homes, but also multi-family homes, apartment complex, regenerative farm, a Montessori site, a community center, a playground, and much more in the works. The regenerative community development right now is still in the first phase, about to begin the second phase. It's our vision at Thunder Valley to, again, have a safe place for not just where we could create speakers, but where we can thrive, where we can have our own place to live, eat, sleep, work, etc. So this is a picture of what the end vision of this regenerative community is what we're planning to do. These are more pictures of the development. As you can see, right in the middle is our chicken farm. We have a beautiful chicken farm of over 500 buffalo chickens. We get around maybe 10 to 12 dozens of eggs that we just give out. Community members come and get their eggs. The chickens lay eggs in that little red center here. Some kids gathering their eggs. We have an initiative called Food Sovereignty. This initiative is directly tailored to create food systems that are created by us, but mainly for us, using the land around us. So using chickens, using the fruit forest, using annual buffalo harvest, and gardening, of course, vegetable gardening. So here's the chickens. Then this housing and home ownership is an initiative that's working pretty much 24/7 to get people in homes, educating people about what is a mortgage, how do I get into a home, how can I work on my credit to buy a home. In Indian country, as we all know, there's a huge shortage of homes. So this initiative is one, working to change that within our regenerative community development, but also working towards changing that on a reservation. Other initiatives we have is a youth leadership, workforce development, social enterprise, regional equity, and a Lakota Lifeways. All 8 initiatives work together in implementing our services, whether it's through our education, our language, or even just purchasing a home. So our initiative, our Lakota Language and Education Initiative, what I was asked to talk about today is part of this ecosystem here at Thunder Valley. We're one of the 8 initiatives. Our Lakota Language and Education Initiative is an effort to restore, reclaim, and heal through our language and through our lifeways. We have a belief within our initiative that if we put our children first and our language first, everything we do from there will work out. Everything will fall into place, and the things that we have of our ultimate vision will come. So our initiative right now has a framework using the entire community, because we believe that from the children all the way from the prenatal, the ones that are still in the womb, to our grandmas and grandpas and everybody in between plays a integral part in revitalizing our language. Everyone has a role, everyone has a place, whether they're relearning the language, or a fluent elder, or a baby inside of our Montessori language nest. We believe that every person in our community plays a role in our initiative and our work. This is a picture of our Lakota Immersion Montessori on site. Early childhood education for us is probably, and for me, and I know for a lot of different people, is the most important part of an individual's educational journey. When they're 0 to 6 years old, that time frame is where they are soaking up everything. They're learning languages, they're learning how to treat each other, they're learning values, they're learning how to do math, science, the whole 9 yards. So for us, the early childhood education program, our Lakota Immersion Montessori program, is to me, the most important program. We are implementing Montessori because it's a child-centered approach, and it gives the freedom to the child, back to the child, to have the freedom of choice. Far too often in the current systems on our reservation, especially the educational systems, we're told how to learn, when to learn, why to learn, etc. Whereas Montessori, for us, allows the child to go at his or her own pace and decide for his or her own self what they want to do. It's a proven system that's used all across the world. We're happy to have trained guides and trained teachers and trained individuals that are working within this environment right now. The idea of this Lakota immersion Montessori, of course, is following along the lines of the Maori people in the language nest style, meaning the medium of the place is Lakotiapi. Everything in is Lakota. We're not teaching the language, we're teaching through the language, if that makes sense. We're not treating the language as a in this area. It's the medium of the classroom, medium of the environment, medium of this children's home. So Montessori for us is a great fit because it aligns directly with how we as Lakota people believe in raising our children. We want them to have those opportunities to choose what they want to do. And we want to create a space that's tailored just for them. As you can see in this picture, everything's at their height. Everything in this environment specifically made for them. Not me, not the parent, not the guide, not the cook. It's everything's tailored for them. In our Montessori environment, we have the guides that are relearning the language, but we also have a fluent speaker in there. And her Tui Martha's job is just to fill the room with Lakotiapi, authentic Lakota. So she just speaks all day to the kids, to the staff, and it does a few different things. One, it gives her the space to just openly speak Lakota because there's not too many places to do that nowadays. But it helps the staff who are relearning the language. It gives them the safe space to hear it, practice it, mess up, relearn it, and then continue to move along on their journey. So these language nests, to me, are and especially like the Montessori model is all the communities, indigenous communities across the Canada and across United States are all capable of having a language nest. We all have speakers, and we all have people interested in learning the language. So the capacity is there, the people are there, and I believe it's, for me, the most important part of individuals' journey of education is the 0 to 6, the early childhood education. And what we're doing here at Thunder Valley is using the Montessori model. These are more pictures. That's my nephew Zani and my wife Emily and my niece Shakoi. Again, the Montessori model is unique only because it's not necessarily how can I say this? It's not it's new to Indian country. There's people that practice. There's relatives up in North Dakota, and there's a few tribes throughout the United States that have Montessori. But for us on our reservation, we're the only Montessori, and it's new. And so for me, it's unique in that we're able to create a space for these children where they can have a different way of learning, have a different way of educating themselves. The guides inside these classroom, formerly known as like teachers, are not seen as teachers. The guides are seen as individuals that push along the child, guide their work, show them how to do the different things inside the classroom, but in no way, shape, or form are there to be a roadblock for the child's development. In our process of designing our implementing Lakota Immersion Montessori and elementary education throughout our initiative's existence, we've always hit like a barrier within Indian country, whether it's a parochial school, a federal school, or a tribally run school. There's always systems that hold you back and tell you what you can and can't do. We've experienced that since I've been working here for over 3 years, where we want to implement our language and our culture in a way that we believe, but because of state standards or because of different oppressive systems, we're unable to do it within those frameworks. So that led us to deciding that we need our own space, like our actual own large school that is designed by our grandmothers, that is designed by our grandfathers, and with Lakota thought and language. So I'm gonna turn it over to my colleague Shantae, and she's gonna talk a little bit about our Lakota school design process, which is on the slide now.
Keep yours going and I'll just. Oh, I'm unmuted actually. Sorry, trying to figure out the mute. So that's where my role steps in. I'm in the process of developing an authentically Lakota immersion school. It's going to be founded in our language, lifeways, and philosophy. And everything about it is created alongside our unjis, our tumis, everybody, the fluent speakers, elders, to try to create the curriculum, the design of the school, down to even little signs hanging up in the school. Everything's going to be authentically Lakota. And in the challenging journey to liberation, it's important that we understand the history of our homelands and what happened through education. As the United States federal government developed this very successful and painful system of oppression through policy, education, and of course, stealing our land. And as you all know, at one point in history, all of our indigenous languages, such as Lakota, was forbidden to be spoken. And the government worked very hard to erase any trace of our identity. So an effort to create educational systems that are free of this white supremacy, the church, whiteness, or any settler colonialism, we are shifting the narrative in Indigenous education to recognize that our languages and our lifeways are and have always been our educational system. And we're striving to create a school that empowers our youth and families to improve the health, the culture, the environment of all of our communities throughout the healing and strengthening of our cultural identity and language. So far right now we are in the planning phases. And since we are in a pandemic, we've been doing this all virtually through Zoom and Google Meets, but I've been hosting or having interviews, informal interviews, and been asking questions, asking our relatives and elders, medicine people, questions like, what does learning look like, feel like, and smell like through a Lakota perspective? We have them radically reimagine what education can look like here on our reservation. We even sometimes ask them to share a memorable experience of when they were at their grandparents' home. And with these questions, the goal is to develop the school that feels safe and feels familiar to what these kids already know. And if they don't know and aren't experiencing that at home, it's going to reconnect them to something within inside of them that came with them as babies through our culture and our language. And it's just something that's this really radical journey that nobody's really taken part in so far. And it's been an honor to do this alongside our aunties. And we firmly believe that we have to do this ourselves because we cannot depend on anyone to do it for us. We want and desire a place where our children can openly and freely be Lakota in every aspect of their mind, their spirit, their body, and in life overall. So this just shows some of the screenshots of all of the Zoom meetings that we had throughout the pandemic and conversations. And slowly, as things become safer for our relatives, we're eventually going to be coming together as a community. And so hosting community events, bringing in children to hear their insight, like, what do you want for your school? What would you want to learn? And it just feels good to hear our relatives and especially our elders say everything that they want for our children, the kind of school they envision, the kind of learning they envision through our culture and our language and our lifeways. And it's been a really fun but daunting process overall.
Switch it over to me. Tell them to switch it over.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, cool. So this is a loaded question. This is always on the thought of every immersion school, language program, education program, curriculum. What is curriculum? How do we develop our curricula? What is curriculum development, etc.? It's always the question that I receive. What is your guys' curriculum? Can we use it? And so I wanted to tell a story that captures where we're at with developing curriculum and how we approach building curriculum. Almost a year ago, this upcoming Tuesday will be 1 year since my Unchi Vereen has worked with us. And when she came on board, again, she has worked over 40 years within pretty much all the school systems on this reservation, whether it was the college, university level, all the way down to little children. She's worked on every area, designed curriculum her whole life. And when she first came on board, we sat down and we were visiting, and she's the director of our curriculum development. And I asked her, because one of the most detrimental things you can do in a language movement is continue to push settler Western colonialism curriculum in your language. Meaning, when you grab something that is made by a non-Indian, translate it into Lakota or Dakota or Nakota or any indigenous language, and then teach it to your indigenous children. That's one of the most detrimental things we can do in the movement. So we took a step back and we looked at how can we start designing curriculum that's for us. So when Unchi first got on board, I asked her, she asked, okay, I want to develop this curriculum. I want to start working with all of it. And I posed the question to her, Unchi, everything you create, I don't want no English involved in it. No English language, no English thought. Everything comes from you, because Unchi Varian's a first language speaker and a thinker. So it's and during that time, again, my grandmother spent her whole life working in these systems, and every single time she mentioned every place she worked, she was always handed, this is the curriculum, this is how you teach it, this is when you teach it, this is why you teach it. And in this instance, I was asking her that to create curriculum from her experiences, from her knowledge, from her grandmothers and her grandparents' teachings, and then to never put it in English, to keep it in Lakota. And for us, that's where we're at with our curriculum development. We want to create things that are for us, but by us. Meaning all of our work is ran through our fluent speakers, our fluent medicine men, medicine women, the people that are in our community, the things that we develop for our children, whether it's a short story or a book or an app, we want the perspective of our fluent speakers to go through it and make sure it matches how we think and how we believe. So for me, to reassure, like if you're starting a program or you have a program, the curriculum isn't anywhere on the internet, isn't anywhere in some fancy expensive book. It's within your community, elders inside your community, within the language, within the life ways, within our ceremonies, within our traditions. That's where the curriculum lies for all of the programming that you do within the work. And for us, that's a new step for us, because we've always just grabbed stuff from the internet, translated it, and boom, we got our curriculum. There it is. We're good. We're golden. But now we're taking in a step in a direction where we want our education models and our systems, our frameworks to be Lakota at heart. So that's where we're at with curriculum. And right now we've designed curriculum from preschool all the way up to adult. And we're working on creating it in a way where it aligns with our Lakota year, meaning our Lakota, the 13 moons, the cycles of the year, the seasons, and the different things that we do throughout the year as Indigenous people at each turn of the moon. And so that's where we're at with curriculum development. But I only wanted to say that as because it's always the notion that we as Indigenous people have to search for curriculum in books or in these experts at universities. But to me and to our program, the experts for our language and for our life ways are our grandmas and grandpas are the ones that have the language. So this is an app that we're working on right now, because part of the reason I was asked to talk was how do we incorporate technology within all of our whole scheme of educating our children. We truly believe that we have to keep our children, give them the opportunity to see themselves and see Lakota people, Lakota children, Lakota language, Lakota everything in the devices that they have. We all know everyone has an iPhone or a smartphone or a TV, smart TV or an iPad. And our kids use those. Everyone uses them. So how do we create programs, apps, and etc., where they can see our language and see themselves? And so that's part of the effort within our curriculum development team. Unchi, along with a few other Lakota programmers and graphic designers, are working to create an app called Grandmother Stories, which is a place where children can go into the game and hear stories that are told from our fluent speakers, from our grandmothers, and I'll also have small mini games and such too. So I was wanting to show the clip of it, but let me see if I can do it real quick. Let me stop share real quick. Pause share. Stop share real quick. And then sorry, I should have. This is a clip of the app. It's gonna launch at the 2021 Dakota Language Summit in Rapid City, put on by Tuswecha Teoshpe. We're gonna launch the app at that event, and that's in October during the Black Hills Powwow. So if you don't have it on your calendar yet, mark it on your calendar. I think it's October 9th, 10th, and 11th. I'm not sure. I have to double check the dates, but it's in October. They're gonna have the I think the 11th annual language summit there. But we're gonna launch this app there. We're gonna have like a launch party there. Here's a preview of how the game we designed. So, and I don't know if I did that right. That's okay. I'm gonna share the sound too. Make sure I share sound. There you go. Okay, cool. So you guys should be able to hear it now.
Ako jalel ohomini yankapi na namach umpie. We chose.
So, I hope you guys were able to hear that. Were you? It's a snippet of the app, but the unique thing about this app is it's designed and created by all Lakota people. The app developers are the Liu brothers out of Rapid City, South Dakota, and their home is from Anderson, South Dakota, and all the people involved in this project are Lakota. So when we talk about curriculum development, we want things to be for us, but also we want them to be by us. So not by us, but by us. So so and part of the whole work around technology is data sovereignty. This is a new topic in indigenous countries. I say countries because it is like across like New Zealand, Maori, all across the world, people are recognizing the importance of our own data. I put this in here as just to highlight the importance of it, because we're all working with our Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota languages. And it's so important as we move forward and create, whether it's a language program, our curriculum, or a book, we put in place systems and policy and procedures that protect the data in a way where when our children are older, they're not having to pay for the resources. They're not having to ask a university or an organization or a non-Indian organization, can I have the recordings of my grandmother? Or can I buy this book off of you for $500 to learn my language? So I mentioned this in respect to each of you that are doing language work, to put it on your radar, to put indigenous data sovereignty on your radar. We'll be coming out with some writings through Thunder Valley CDC, some next steps on how indigenous programs that specifically work with languages and language movements on what they can do to implement policy that guards or protects the language. In indigenous thought, the ownership and the copyright and stuff, that's the Western philosophy. For us, we as indigenous people see the language as we're carriers of the language and carrying it onto the next generation, and it ultimately doesn't belong to us, it belongs to our children. and the unborn children, the future generations. So indigenous data sovereignty for us is around guardianship. How do we protect the language and guard it and honor the language in a way? So when our children, even those that aren't born, are running the programs, are the directors, are the teachers, are the speakers, aren't having to buy the language back. So we'll be putting out some more writing pieces on this through our website, thundervalley.org, because it's a new topic and there's a lot to unpack. But at the core of it, at the end of the day, if you work with the language, it should be on your radar and how the things you create, how you're protecting them, so no one takes advantage of us. And that's in Lakota country, that's been an ongoing thing. We've always been taken advantage. They took our land, they took our language, they took our children, and now we're in an information age where they're trying to take our data now. So they've taken everything from us. So that's my little blurb on indigenous data sovereignty. Before we end with our presentation, as customary, we want to say thank you to each of you for listening to us. And I know if there's questions, we'll answer them afterwards. But we wanted to end with words of encouragement from our grandmother, Vereen, our own Chief Vereen. She's going to provide us with encouragement. And again, I thank each of you for listening. So.
Après un betu washte you happy down helps le wana unkihun bigte chawana le daku e prinkten hena echa dokel kata kia mauni bio hena echa use umbina dokel okihika taku kuwashteshte unkichu na dokel echunk unki hena echa le wakanja laki echa hena wichunk umbikte na dokel wichunk umbikte hena echa le owayawa na nakun owayawa tiata takia hena echa nakun upi na dokel hena unki hena echa ake wakanja ki hunku na atkuku ki echa hektakia wakanja ki kupikta helms le dokel echunkumbiki hena echa helms umbikta helms ela ehani chala kotaki umbi na dohani duecha taku oichakiake hena echa washichu ya eabishni nakun takuni shicha eabshni Lakota iapiki le imahel unyuhapishni cha dohani wakanshaki wicho iyeshicha umshni cha he le dokel unkihipiki echa wakanshaki echa tokatakia use money be na hena washteshte ki echa uspepik down inana ateapi ki hena echa nako duecha dakuku uspewi chakia ki hena echa helms dakuku uspepi cha yuha jaska tipi ki imahel daku cha le chalakel unkospepi del nakun he Lakota iaki echa cha togata kia unyampi ki le lila wakanja ki echa wana ichahapi na dokel Uyampi Ohena Echa, Iwang Kala, Iwang Uyampikdel, Na Naku, Wana Eki Huni Pikdel He Echa, Dokel Umpikdel Hena Echa, Wakanshaki Echa, Gahak, Ichi Gahak, Cha Heun Let Ichuha, Ni Umpiki, He Opta, Takuku Washte Cha, Uspepi Hena Echa, Yuhamani Yapikde, Tokatakia. So that was my encouragement that whatever we do as to the teachers and the parents, it's the teachers to the parents, and then from the parents to the teachers. And so in the middle is the children, and we put them in the middle for now because we need to keep them in line, so to speak. And we need to also have them to recognize that Lakota is who they are, and that there are things that they can learn. And the main thing is the Lakota language. And then from there, they don't have to learn in classes. They don't have to, it's like just an ongoing thing throughout the day. It's all different things, but carrying the same language in tones, in a way that it would be done in Lakota way. Like, we never holler at the children. We never make them feel bad. Everything is good. We don't do anything that is going to negate the issues of raising a child and learning their own language between the mother, the father, and then to the teachers and the people who run the organization, or who run even just the classroom. And so it was my encouragement that this is the way we're going to carry on. And we never, in Lakota, we say, spank the child, kasaka, kasaksaka, and we don't do that. We never did do that, and we always wanted to show more respect to the children. A lot of times I see parents that they're nothing but that. They want their children to do good, and they want them to do well, and they don't hit them, they don't call them, they don't treat them negative. And so that's the going trend upward in our way of thinking and behaving to theirs. Thank you.
Wanna conclusion. So if there's any questions, I guess we could take them now.
Yeah, just I got one question here. If you have any questions, okay. If you have any questions to our audience, just put them up right now, and we can put them. We can ask these good people some questions on what they do in their unique program there too. We have one from Shay Peoples. She says, "Padame, how are you avoiding colonial influence from state educational standards, testing, core curriculum, etc.?"
So when we first worked with the parochial school, a church school, to start our immersion program, that was something we ran into with I believe it was the first and second graders within the state of South Dakota. They're required to take the specific assessments to gauge where they're at, whether it's reading or math. Anyways, our vision wasn't to provide these kids with the space to get them ready for the assessment. It was always just to give them the space where they can learn Lakota, have access to Lakota, all the while learning the elementary education. We were required to take it, and we were working within that school. And they said, you guys, even though your classroom's an immersion classroom, you still have to take the state standardized assessment to gauge where they're at. And of course, the state test was in English. So our kids took the test because majority of them, pretty much all of them, they get enough English at home and other places, so they know how to speak English and they know how to read in English, even though none of them have ever been taught in a formalized classroom setting English at all. So, but they took the test and they scored at that same amount of parts that taught all in English, and then a few of them scored off the charts. So for us, that did a few things. It reminded us that one, our language is beautiful, and sacred, and powerful, but also it reminded us that if we put our language first, things that like the standardized testing and such will fall to the wayside. And for the school that we worked with, then it was proven that we then advocated, well, this whole school needs to be immersion. And right now, the elementary that school is actually working towards becoming immersion because the scoring helped them make that decision. So, but in creating a curriculum, that's where we're at now with redesigning our curriculum from our standards. We're asking ourselves, what is a Lakota standard for curriculum development? So we're starting in the place with our virtues, and then we're going to build out from there. And it's going to be comprehensive in that one. It's going to be from our fluent speakers and their language and thought. So I hope that answered the question. I went off topic.
No, that's good. How?
No.
Another question here too. The first two speakers articulate the sacredness of the language. What does it mean? What it means to be Dakota and Lakota, Nakota? My first question is, what does being Lakota mean to you? Second question is, in the word liberation, help me understand what you are being liberated from.
Okay, the first question, what does being Lakota mean to you? I think just for me, I'm 33-year-old Oglala Lakota from Pine Ridge, South Dakota. I grew up here my whole life. I have 4 children. I'm married. And for me, being a Lakota, it means being a good relative to my family, to my community, and to the people that I work with, and always keeping that at core, like practicing being a good relative daily. And I think that for me, that's what it means. You guys want to add any of that? Or? So in general, or in simple terms, it means for us being a good relative. And then the second question is the word liberation. Help me understand what we are being liberated from. I think this is a big question, but in the most simplest term, we've been an oppressed people since. I could speak for us as Lakota people on the Pine Ridge Reservation, since we've been put on this reservation since 1868 when we first signed the treaty. 100% of our people were fluent and knew our language and ways. We fast forward over 100 years, 150 years till now, 2021. Less than 3% are fluent. There is federal policy, federal systems that have worked actively since we first signed the treaty to rid us of our language, of our ways, of our way of being. And those systems are still at play. They're still here, whether it's a church system, whether it's a federal school, a state system, those oppressive systems are still at working tirelessly to keep us in the state of poverty, state of not knowing who we are as Lakota people. There's 21 reservation schools on Pine Ridge. They're all 3 different kinds: parochial, tribal, or federal schools. All of them treat Lakota as a secondary subtopic. For me, that's what we're trying to liberate ourselves from. We're trying to put Lakota first at the center and then work out from there. So creating systems is essential in that process. I hope that answers your question, Lekshi. Sunny, now a Chianka.
From George, What are your thoughts on non-Dakota Lakota people learning and teaching our language?
Show real quick. So this is a we all have within our communities. I like to call them allies, individuals that are non-Indians that are working actively to help us revitalize our language. The term ally for me is an individual, whether they're white or Hasapa or a different race or whatever ethnicity from the indigenous population they work with. They have a role in the revitalization movement. But for us in Lakota country and across the United States and indigenous country, there's that part of their role is learning to decenter themselves from the movement. The time for us, like the environment, the climate here on the Pine Ridge Reservation, the young people, the children, the teenagers, the young adults are moving towards creating systems to changing how things are through our ceremony, through our language, through the efforts like here at Thunder Valley. We're one bright spot. There's a ton of different bright spots on our reservation, but within those efforts, there are non-Indians that help, but their role has to be part of that role has to be working around decentering themselves from the driver's seat. We're the only ones that can liberate ourselves and work towards creating that systemic change. Non-Indians can't do that for us. As much as maybe they may think they can, maybe there's individuals that think they can revitalize their language, but at the end of the day, it's us Lakota, Dakota, Nakota people that have to do that for ourselves. So I hope that answers your question.
That sounds good. We got to be our own saviors.
Yep.
Yeah, too many Hollywood movies are doing that to us. No, just leave it open to you. We got a couple minutes here left. 3 minutes. Just want to thank you, the three of you, Dallas, Serene, and Shanita. Really good presentation. But any closing comments that you got? You guys got about 2 or 3 minutes just to let us know your thoughts, and we'll exit out of here.
I just want to say thank you to the organizers for allowing us to share our work. It's an honor to be part of this conference. It's an honor to share our work, and everyone that's in this room, thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to us and hear us. I appreciate each and every one of you. And in closing for myself, I encourage each of you to continue the beautiful heart work that with the languages, whether you're Lakota, Dakota, or Nakota, to continue to do the work. And I appreciate you, and I'm rooting for all of you, rooting for everyone here.
I just want to say a few words and thank you for allowing us to come on and speak about our piece of gallantry that we are doing here. And that always makes me feel so happy about it. And we have a lot to offer, and so do the children. And I just wanted to say that what you said just now about that we have to be our own savior. Yes, that is so exactly correct, that we have to do that. We just can't rely on others.
And I'll just say thank you all for allowing me to speak in front of all of you guys. The language. Sorry. I'm new into the language work. I've been an educator for a few years now, but I'm new into the language work. But I want to thank all of you who are here on this conference for paving that path for young people like me and even younger, and now to our babies and my baby, paving the path and keeping our language alive. I think it's an emotional topic, and I appreciate all of you very much. Thank you.
Oh, Nina Wopida, but I'm happy to just thank you for the great presentation. Three beautiful people for bringing their program to us.